Hello indie game fan, hidden gems are always fun since you might just stumble upon your next favorite game. We've chosen more titles in genres that I don't usually cover, which are at 1000-ish Steam reviews or fewer, but it's an interesting top 10 if I do say so myself. But we shall begin with HAAK, an awesome looking Metroidvania that looks and plays awesome, where you explore a post-apocalyptic cyber wasteland in search of your missing brother. The action and grappling mechanic is neat, as are the boss fights and designs, making it a no-brainer if you love the genre. Puzzle games have the unfortunate honour of filling up a list like this since people in general don't seem to be too hot on them, but one that I have to mention is Taiji, an open world puzzle game with a pleasant look and some head-scratching puzzles. This has drawn comparisons to The Witness, but less pretentious, where you're exploring and using environmental clues to help you solve the puzzles, which start off as clicking squares to turn them black or white, but do get more challenging as we go along. It's a thinking person's game and will certainly give your mind a workout. There are several possible reasons or the combination of them that resulted in The Night Witch only having about 150 Steam reviews as of recording, such as releasing late in the year at the end of November, it being a bullet hell title which people are adverse to, and that there are deck building elements for some reason as well. But if you love shoot 'em ups and gorgeous art, I wholeheartedly recommend this game. Developer Super Mega Team is known for their great hand-drawn art, as seen in their previous title Rise and Shine from 2017, which has carried over nicely into this game. Like puzzle games, point-and-click adventure games do also unfortunately tend to fall into the Hidden Gems series since it is from another era in time, but one of the best recent examples is the case of the Golden Idol. While the visuals are not exactly eye-catching, the core mechanics and puzzles here are interesting, where you're getting clues from the environment in quite a literal fashion, plucking out words from conversations and using it to explain what happened in this murder mystery title, feeling a little bit similar to Return of the Obra Dinn. An underrated action roguelite is Samurai Bringer, since it actually does something different which needs to be mentioned. Yes, if you couldn't tell from the footage, this is actually a roguelite Musou title, i.e. in the vein of games like Dynasty Warriors, where hordes of enemies are thrown at you, where the further enemies are not quite as mindless as the enemies from Vampire Survivors, but are still there for you to beat up. It has an interesting combat system as well, where you're creating your own custom combos, all with a great look, which rounds off the package.
Hello, human. You are a snail, and I am a god, capable of predicting every move you will make. Too easy, a tiny snail like you can't stop me. You will snail.
One of the more successful titles on the list is Will You Snail, the next evolution of the precision platformer, where you're being tormented by an AI who reacts to your movements, placing spikes and hazards exactly where it will hurt you the most. The boss fights in this are pretty intense and can get very challenging in that mesocore kind of way on higher difficulties, but this comes to us from developer Jonas Tyroller, who's also prolific on YouTube, where the man seems to be living the indie dream.
No, what have you done?
I've mentioned Islets a number of times, and it is perhaps the poster boy for Hidden Gems in 2022, a beautiful, well-made Metroidvania that should be getting a lot more attention. The most common term that describes this game seems to be charming, which I attribute to the cute art, where this challenges the idea of the Metroidvania map, since you're causing floating islands in the sky to join back together, which results in the formation of shortcuts and secrets, being a cleverly designed title as well. I'm pretty sure that the majority of you would not have heard of LEGIONCRAFT, where this is quite an interesting roguelite strategy title, where you're amassing an army to go to war, with the twist being that they are all in geometric shapes and will fit together as a giant block. I love the almost stained glass look to some of the designs, where it's very underrated, so do give it a go. One of the most beautiful looking point-and-click adventure games is Lost in Play, one that is set in dreams, where a pair of siblings are lost in their imagination as they explore this wondrous world. Of course, there are hazards and challenges, but nothing too difficult or scary, where the art and animation really reminds me of a children's cartoon, so kudos to the developer on that. I was pretty excited for Midnight Fight Express since this 3D beat-em-up title looked awesome, and it is, where you're an ex-criminal drawn back into the fold to stop crime syndicates from taking over the city by sunrise. The action in this is awesome and very brutal, essentially being a John Wick game in all but name, where it has some excellent sound design, especially with how destructive the guns sound in this. It is a fun action movie of a game and should be treated as one, and is a nice alternative to the 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up, made all the more impressive since it is primarily the work of a solo developer. Of course, I have to give a mention to the ultra cozy a little to the left, one where you're tidying, arranging and sorting household objects in order to solve the puzzles. You could be arranging books or pencils or random bowl of knickknacks, having to find a pattern in each, but where thankfully there are multiple solutions, so it's more about pleasing your own brain in how things are organized.
In sight. Some levels have multiple solutions. There are 3 to find in this level. Oh, there's also this mischievous cat that will show up, and it likes to get in your way. The game takes a little bit of inspiration from our cat.
There's a story to this place.
My friends are stuck here.
Nobody should be alone.
Is anyone there? Hello?
The long in development Ghost Song is also worth a mention, where after all these years, I was surprised that it turned out well, where this sci-fi Metroidvania has some great combat.
I am the thing you dreamed of, and you are a thing I dreamed.
If they stay here, they'll die.
Leave now, or I'll defend myself.
It has a nice variety of weapons and enemies, which encourages you to mix between both melee and ranged weapons, but do note that the story and narrative are simply okay, but if you're a mechanics and gameplay person first like me, I'm sure that you'll find something to love here. Okay, In writing this portion of the script, I realized that there are some titles which are featured prominently on the channel this year, but what can I say, I do like certain types of games where all of these are still criminally overlooked, such as Ship of Fools, a seafaring roguelite with co-op support for up to 2 players. Co-op titles can be fun and this is indeed great, but the problem with these is always finding that other person to play with you, where there's a very hectic, almost overcooked level of chaos in this game, but the roguelite upgrades and progression do keep things fresh. I've been keenly following the tale of Haiku the robot as well, since I believe this is the first major release from this solo developer, and I think it has done pretty well for him. It had a successful Kickstarter campaign and did not disappoint when it launched, where you can see and feel the Hollow Knight influence here without it being a direct copy. I was concerned over the colour palette of orange and brown shown in early trailers, but there's more variety than that, simply being a well-made, smaller one of these. I've mentioned Moonscars a number of times on this channel as well, where this grimdark 2D Souls-like title is neat, where the art and animations are fantastic as well. However, if you're sick of hearing me banging on and on about this game, might I suggest Iron Pineapple's recent video on this, where I concur with his thoughts, so go check out that video if you're still on the fence with this. Let's kick off the top 10 with Soldiers, again one that I've praised for its pixel art many times, where it ended up here due to balance issues at launch. They tried to do a thing that allows you to choose your character class from melee, ranged and magic, which is neat but led to balancing issues, which for the most part has been tweaked. But the damage was done with the mixed reviews, so it didn't go in the main Game of the Year list, but I do have to mention it somewhere. One of the most successful titles that succeeded despite using a generic asset pack is Crystal Project, a free-form open-world JRPG that does have some new ideas. While at its core, you're still participating in turn-based combat with an almost Final Fantasy V style drop system, one of the most interesting things that it allows you to do is jump. Yes, it is as weird as it seems for a JRPG since you don't usually associate 3D platforming with this genre, but the non-linearity of the game design is neat as well and is one for fans of the genre. Another intense action title that I didn't quite know where to put was Last Command, one that mixes a bullet hell boss rush title with the movement of Snake into an all-action and enjoyable title. The bosses in this are the highlight, where the changes that they make to the core gameplay is super interesting, almost in an Undertale-like fashion, but also of note is that this is from the developer of Rebi, which I just mentioned in my Steam sale video, so you know that the quality is there. Now this entry is a weird one since Rogue Tower has been pretty successful all on its own and should not be a hidden gem, but tower defense games, all things considered, are still rather niche, so I just wanted to give it a mention. This is a roguelite tower defense title where the world constantly expands and you get attacked on all sides, having to research and tech your way up in order to build the best combo of towers to destroy your enemies. The low poly look adds to the hidden gem factor since it isn't exactly a gorgeous title, but is an excellent one not to be missed. I have to give a special mention to Road Warden, since this is a narrative RPG of all things that does have some awesome pixel art. It is set in a medieval fantasy world filled with beasts and monsters, where you play as the titular character who has to protect travelers on the road and to connect isolated villagers. For a very heavily text-based title, this of course has good writing and quite an intriguing central mystery. We are also trying to find out what happened to the previous Road Warden who has gone missing, but I just wanted to highlight how awesome it is that games like this can still be made in 2022. Another underrated sequel which seems to have largely gone unnoticed is Warriors of the Now 2, a roguelike tactics title that is the follow-up to a game from 2020, expanding upon that and making it even better. You control a party of 3 characters, of which there's lots more variety in the sequel, as you venture into the deserts to face off against the Roman legion, having to fight against both creatures and men alike. It has a gorgeous art style, great strategic action, and even meta progression, making it a very compelling title not to be missed. Similarly, the heroic legend of Igaunia is a genre that I do not usually cover, being of the grand strategy variety. But wait, it has anime ladies, so it is not your stuffy old Paradox or Slytherin games. Jokes aside, this has been described as Grand Strategy Light, where you're still commanding lords and ladies and maneuvering massive armies across the world map for domination, and should be a good introduction to the genre. My favourite puzzle game of the year is probably Patrick's Parabox, a recursive Sokoban-style block-pushing puzzle game that takes an age-old idea into a wild new direction. As you can see, the blocks that you're pushing around can actually be the level itself which you're also in, so it does break your brain at a certain point, and while it has been compared to Baba Is You, I wouldn't quite put it on the same level since that game is a masterpiece, but this is still pretty good nonetheless. As far as I'm concerned, developer Nereal can make whatever they want and I'll be interested in it, since they're the developer of Reigns, which spawned a whole new style of game much like Vampire Survivors has, and after making multiple iterations of that in Her Majesty, Game of Thrones and Three Kingdoms, they finally made something different in Card Shark. You're making your way up French high society by cheating at cards, using elements like QTEs and pattern forming in order to indicate what an opponent has to your partner, with an awesome look and theme as well as criminally overlooked, all things considered. We do of course have to close out with this fascinating action roguelite, in that while it also uses an asset pack and does look a little generic, the items and upgrades here are the ones which push what indie games can do. For example, there is a weapon that is inversely proportional to the power of your graphics card installed on your PC, where the better the card, the worse it is, as well as weapons which require you to scream into your microphone to use it, where despite its popularity, Weird RPG is the essence of a hidden gem for being weird and unique, where you can watch the main Game of the Year list in this video.